Zack Snyder continues to stir the DC pot over on Instagram. He's posted another picture of Ben Affleck's Batman saying, well, I'll paraphrase, no doubt this guy is Batman, or what exactly he said. You're right, Zack. No doubt. Ben Affleck is Batman. The DCU is dead. Zack Snyder knows the DCU is dead. James Gunn knows the DCU is dead. James Gunn and Zack Snyder know that Man of Tomorrow will never happen. No matter how many times James Gunn posts about Man of Tomorrow on social media, on all those fake leak hypes about who the villain's going to be in Man of Tomorrow. The DCU, I repeat, is dead. You won't see Man of Tomorrow. You probably won't see Supergirl. You probably won't see Lanterns because the DCU is dead. Zack Snyder always said he wanted to make one last DC movie, which is The Dark Knight Returns. Now people will say, but Mick, isn't Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice kind of a modern day version of The Dark Knight Returns? In a way, yes. Now, I've gone on record in saying that Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice should have actually been a Dark Knight Returns adaptation. That in Man of Steel, this older Batman, played by Ben Affleck, should have existed in Man of Steel, so they could have done a Dark Knight Returns in the next movie, or the other movie, or the Batman movie that they did. We probably should have had a Man of Steel 2, then a Dark Knight Returns, right? Because that's what Zack was trying to do with BVS anyway. Why not just do it? I bet you $1 billion trillion fucking dollars. If we got the Dark Knight Returns, a Dark Knight Returns adaptation by Zack Snyder instead of Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice, that film makes $2 billion and people are not shitting on it, right? Because as I said yesterday, people misunderstood what Zack Snyder was trying to do with BVS. It's literally the Dark Knight Returns, but it's not a direct adaptation. That's where the mistake was. You sell a movie as a WWF Raw, punch-up between Batman and Superman. You give 9 minutes of that punch-up and people get disappointed. Of course. Because you called the movie fucking Batman vs Superman, creating a tagline in your marketing, who will win? Of course people are going to be fucking disappointed. I wasn't disappointed. I love Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice. So I believe that Zack Snyder should make a Dark Knight Returns trilogy or a mini-series on streaming. But I am a fan of cinema. I believe Zack Snyder was born to make comic book cinema, and I think if he doesn't ever finish his Justice League arc, his Superman arc, which I want him to do, but the man has gone on record in saying that he wants to make one final DC movie, which is a Dark Knight Returns adaptation. Why not a Dark Knight Returns cinematic trilogy? Zack would kill it. I've always asked the question on my platforms, especially here on my YouTube, why is Zack so hated? Why do some comic book nerds despise Zack's art? Because he's different. Because he started making DC movies at a time when the MCU was huge. And there was this kind of Nazism attitude towards comic book movies that everything should be like the MCU because it's the bestest thing ever. So there was this Hitler mentality, right? That all comic book movies should be like the MCU. They should have blonde hair and blue eyes and be white. That was the attitude. We know that. They hate Zack because he's different and unique, and he makes unique art. He likes to tell his story within his pictures, right? That's what he does. In a lot of ways, Zack is doing what they used to do with the old silent movies because they couldn't have sound, right? That's what what he's doing. He can tell a story with very, very little dialogue. Do you remember when they were counting how much dialogue Henry Cavill's Superman said in Man of Steel on BVS? Pathetic, right? In James Gunn's Superman, you could argue Superman talks too fucking much. And I would agree with that assertion. I think it's the right time for a Dark Knight adaptation, not a Dark Knight, a Dark Knight Returns adaptation. A trilogy, as I say. You know, go all Lord of the Rings, make it huge. Because here's the thing. You bring back Henry Cavill, because Superman is in the graphic novel, in the Dark Knight Returns graphic novel. So you bring back Henry Cavill as Superman. Ben Affleck is exactly the right age, and he still will be the right age in 5 to 10 years' time, to play the Dark Knight Returns Batman. Because he's older, because you get all these gun bros going, well, Ben Affleck's too old to play Batman. He's actually not. Ben still looks fucking great, and it's not like he's 800 fucking years old, is it? Bring back Henry, bring back Ben for a Dark Knight Returns trilogy. Perfect. Perfect. That makes sense to me. Comic book nerds would like it. Fans of cape shit would like it. The general audience would like it. His Batman is brilliant. Zack Snyder knows how to do Batman. The story is fantastic, right? And then maybe Zack moves on from DC. I know people want him to finish his arc. I want him to finish his arc, but that may not be possible. We will see about that. But we know, because Zack's gone on record saying that he wants to make one last comic book movie for DC, a Dark Knight Returns adaptation. And I believe he should do that. As I say, starring Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill. Because Superman, although he's immortal, unless you impale him with kryptonite or something, or he hasn't, he's not been beamed by the sun, he would age quicker then. But Superman still ages, but slower than the rest of us. So Henry Cavill would be at the right age as well. An older Batman, an older Superman in a Dark Knight Returns movie. I think Zack should be given that opportunity. Because we've all seen that what James Gunn is doing has no comparison to what Zack Snyder did. Zack Snyder gave us art. James Gunn gave us a parody fucking cartoon. It's embarrassing. What James Gunn did with Superman is indefensible. It's not even worth comparing Man of Steel with James Gunn's Superman. That's an insult to Zack Snyder, David Goyer, and Christopher Nolan. They gave us art. James Gunn isn't interested in art. James Gunn is done. His DCU is done. It's finished. It's kaput. Boba Talks can do his 40-minute videos trying to hype it up for his pal James Gunn. But sorry, Boba, you're wasting your oxygen because it's dead. The DCU is dead. Why do you think Snyder got an Instagram account? Why do you think he keeps on posting Snyderverse content? Because he can sniff blood. He knows he's going to have a seat at the table again. Reports suggesting the latest updates for the sale of Warner Brothers Discovery suggest that despite what they're saying publicly, Netflix are very interested. They have got financial gurus to advise them. And they've been talking to banks and things like that. So Netflix are very interested in buying Warner Brothers Discovery. I am still quite mystified why Snyder fans have such faith in Netflix restoring the Snyderverse. I personally don't fucking trust them. And by the way, all the studios, all the companies want to buy WB Discovery. Right now, the favourites for me are Universal. I think Universal Comcast are absolutely the favourites to swallow it up, but we will see. As I say, I don't really trust Netflix, because you look at Netflix, you look at what they did to Henry and The Witcher. The Witcher's come out to huge controversy, even though Shields are trying to defend it, right? It's shite. Everybody hates it. They did Henry Cavill dirty, just like WB did Henry Cavill and Zack Snyder dirty. It's the same fucking thing. Because what happens is when people are honest and they love the art form and they love stories and they love adapting books accurately, people like the woman, right? I nearly said something else, but people like the woman running The Witcher don't like that because they're in entertainment to push propaganda and their identity politics. They're not in it for the love of the game, for the love of the art form. There's too many people like Lauren, who runs The Witcher, and not enough people like Zack Snyder and Henry Cavill. That's why they fired Henry, because Henry exposed their creative bankruptcy. He wouldn't let it go. Henry Cavill, when it comes to adapting something accurately, is like fucking Columbo. He doesn't fucking let go. Neither should he. It's why we all love Henry Cavill. He loves this shit as much as we do and believes the fans have every right to give their opinions. So if I was running DC, if I was the CEO of DC Studios, yes, Zack Snyder would be able to make a Dark Knight Returns trilogy. I would want Zack Snyder to finish his arc. I'd let him do that too. But I'd also allow him to do a Dark Knight Returns trilogy. I actually think a Dark Knight Returns trilogy would be a great bookend to Zack Snyder's time making DC. But I know his fans, a lot of you watching this will be shouting at me saying, no, Mick, we want him to finish his arc, his Justice League arc first. I want that too. But I do see the potential for a studio saying, we're going to adapt The Dark Knight Returns, and Zack Snyder is the perfect person to do this. Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck are the perfect people to be in this fucking movie. You've got everything for this to be a great movie. Zack Snyder's the perfect person to do it. That's what I would love to see that. And I see the potential. And it's clear that Zack Snyder got an Instagram account to push his movie, The Last Picture. He's back in the game making cinematic movies. So having an Instagram account, because all these directors now are on social media, and Vero just doesn't do it. It's not enough. He's back in the mainstream again. So he needs an Instagram account. Some people claim he's only posting Snyderverse stuff to get him attention for the big picture. And maybe he is. And I'm okay with that. Personally, I think Zack Snyder isn't like that. I think, as I say, he can sniff DC blood. He knows there's an opportunity to get a seat back at the table. He knows a lot of the fans are hungry for him to return to DC. We've seen what they do by trying to MCU DC. It hasn't worked. It didn't work with Justice League. It didn't work with Shazam. It didn't work with Birds of Prey. It didn't work with Wonder Woman 84. It didn't work with Shazam Fury of the Gods. It hasn't worked with any of them. But still you try and try and try. But James Gunn was the last throw of the MCU tonal dice. And you failed. It's about time, WB, Jeff Johns, who's probably still hiding there, Gunn, Safran, time to admit defeat. That this way of making films dumbed down shit. They keep on saying, well, the reason films are dumbed down today is because kids are obsessed with TikTok, so trying to dumb down things like TikTok. That's not how you get young people watching movies. If you make great fucking movies with great characters and stories, kids will come back to cinemas in their droves. They don't want TikTok on the big and small screen. They just want to be inspired like the fucking rest of us. Man of Steel inspired me. Batman vs Superman inspired me. Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut inspired me. Wonder Woman 2017 inspired me. Aquaman inspired me. And I had a lot of fun with Black Adam. Even though it has huge problems, I still enjoyed the movie. I didn't take that movie too deeply, but at least they tried, right? At least they fucking tried. James Gunn wasn't even trying with Superman. It's time, everyone, to forget your hate about Zack Snyder. He's art, he is cinema, He's made great DC comic book movies, and we need him back. We need his Dark Knight Returns trilogy.